Truth Frequency.
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Hello and welcome, listeners, viewers, and readers from across America and around the world. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. And I thank all of you for taking the time to join us in live broadcast this evening. I have as co-host with me Laurel Austin. Laurel, are you there, sister?
I'm here. Hello, Zen.
Excellent. Thank you for coming. And we also have as special guest Matt Landman. Matt, are you there, brother?
Thanks so much for having me. Yes, I am.
It's a great pleasure, man, and I appreciate you letting us know, kind of what you've been involved in and also doing a lot of research on. And I think this topic is very important, and it's one that more people should take the time to examine and look into. And it's a most excellent follow-up to Frankenskies and the research that you did previously. So, but if you would, before we get into it, talk about your previous documentary, your previous work, and your website, YouTube, as far as the Facebook platforms, all of that, and where people can go to support you and your endeavors. And also mention your endeavor with the clothing company. And I looked at it, and man, I think that's a great idea as well.
Of course, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. So my path as an activist started just only a few years ago now. 4 years ago, I devoted my life to exposing the geoengineering chemtrails agenda. It was mainly because I felt like nobody really knew the truth behind it. So I dove right in, and I started hosting these small conferences that led to bigger conferences. And now I've hosted 3 global chemtrail summits, they're called, and Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Canada, and just recently in Tucson, Arizona. And amidst all that, I produced the documentary Frankenskies, which is a chronological timeline of weather modification history. It starts off in the 1920s and takes you step by step towards the timestamp that was when the film was released in 2017. Frankenskies was groundbreaking, and it showed the solar geoengineering governance regime agenda to dim the sun and the ongoing experiments of biological and weather modification that are ongoing overhead that we all need to give attention to, especially with the normalization of solar dimming as a solution to climate change and global warming, which is all, if you know, global warming is a hoax and all of that. So I've launched the website actualactivists.com, which I'm really proud of. And I've got my Facebook, Matt Landman, with roughly 38,000 followers. Please give me a follow on there. And then my YouTube channel, Matt Landman, as well, and then also on Twitter. And then the film, Frankenskies, which is available for free on Vimeo and YouTube, also has a website, frankenskiesthemovie.com. And so as an activist, I was kind of I was trying to figure out where to have this last conference last year. And then as this experiment unfolded to normalize solar geoengineering, this experiment was unfolding, unraveling with this media normalization, and then an experiment in Tucson was supposed to take place last year. So I moved to Arizona to expose and reveal this experiment to set up this normalization scheme to show the world that we needed chemtrails to basically sidestep decades of treason and then normalize and launch chemtrails geoengineering as a solution to bring it into the mainstream and then show the world that we needed a solution. First, this experiment had to happen in Tucson, which has been delayed. I believe it was delayed because of the protest that I hosted and the conference that I hosted and the concert that I hosted in Tucson last May. So I moved down to Arizona, and as I was doing all this geoengineering activism, I learned of the new 5G cell tower deployment. 5G is rolling out in Arizona as the first state to go statewide with this 5G new technology of this new wave of cell phone infrastructure. So it went 3G, 4G, now we're at 5G. It's the 5th generation. Well, 5G is actually a lot more different than 4G because of the infrastructure we've required. 5G requires a cell tower basically every 500 feet all over the United States to propagate this 1 millimeter size wave. And so as I lived in Sedona, Arizona, where there's just one or two cell towers in the entire town, this desert community, well, I learned that the community was about to erect 27 more massive cell towers, along with hundreds and hundreds of small cell towers throughout neighborhoods and on street corners. And so I quickly learned of the dangers of 5G and of the rollout that was first happening in Arizona. And they have decided to deploy currently, and they want it, the telecom industry wants it to be statewide by 2020. And so as all this unraveled, while I was in Arizona, learning of all this, watching the cell towers and the fake trees and the fake cactuses get put up, I tried to learn as much as I could, and developed a risk mitigation strategy as an activist to tackle this ongoing concern, which is the radiation from these new towers. And then I learned about smart meters, and I learned about cell phone. This it's called non-ionizing radiation, meaning it doesn't heat, but it still causes harm. So in that light, I am now launching a clothing line that is shielding. It's basically an armor. It's woven steel, woven copper, woven silver material. The clothing deflects the radiation from this 5G technology, from the current cell phone and smart meters and cell towers. And so that's my newest project to, in a passive way, offer protection to especially pregnant women and young children, but all sorts of anybody who wants to be protected by this new wave of radiation that we're going to be experiencing. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Thank you.
You've been a busy guy, brother, and really looking into some very important topics. And I spent today also, going through some of your latest videos, and I was really especially blown away by the one on the way that the mercury and the aluminum interacts together. And for those that have not seen that, I mean, I was just blown away. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then also, if you would, highlight the Xboxes, because, so many people, especially kids and younger adults, have those in their houses, and, they're plugged in all the time.
Well, yeah, of course, and happily. So I'm always trying to bring some activism, some sort of truth to people, and there's so many different things to talk about, whether it be health or, the different agendas at play. And when I launched my website, actualactivists.com, which I really encourage anybody to take a look at, there's a plethora of information. I was doing a daily blog on there. It's stacked full of, you scroll for 5 minutes and you'll learn something guaranteed. Okay, and on there, as an activist, I was pushing myself to learn on a daily basis and to be able to convey this message to people out there that wanted to find that truth, and it happened upon my website. So I started learning about the blood-brain barrier, because the website, Actual Activists, it brings this unity of truth together. I like to say that truth is a frequency, and once you start writing that frequency of truth, once you're elevated to that frequency of truth, all these other truths become self-evident. Okay, I knew when I first became a chemtrail activist that I wasn't just going to be chemtrails only, and once I started learning about how everything is interwoven, and now I'm learning how the 5G agenda is interwoven with the chemtrails and the vaccines and all this sort of stuff. The website Actual Activists is split into 4 categories, but it's not just defined by that. And the 4 categories are geoengineering, aka chemtrails, vaccines, GMO, and fluoride. And when I started learning about how the all of these things are mixed together and how they correlate, and it's not just they're not independent of one another,
Right.
I started learning of, well, firstly, the blood-brain barrier. So once you become, as an infant, once you become a year and a half, once you're 18 months of age, you've basically developed a blood-brain barrier, which is a barrier between your brain and the rest of the blood in your body, and it protects your brain from heavy metals and what have you. And so if you get exposed to aluminum, say through your food or your deodorant, or maybe the aerosols, the chemtrail spray has aluminum, or even vaccines. If you've been vaccinated, or if you're naive enough to get the flu shot or what have you. You end up with aluminum in your body. Well, aluminum, it's not small enough, the way that the chemical acts in your body, it's hard to get that aluminum directly into your brain. But if you mix it with mercury, or if you mix it with fluoride, that fluoride will actually, these things cross the blood-brain barrier, and they'll actually escort aluminum into your brain, and then they'll mix and cause problems, neurological problems, while in your brain. Okay, so chemical reactions happening in your brain with fluoride and aluminum, or mercury and aluminum, they wreak havoc on your brain, and you end up with dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things. So for instance, mercury and aluminum are both ingredients in vaccines. Okay.
Right.
And when these two things mix together, the video that you're referencing is the mixing of mercury and aluminum together, and this chemical reaction, which you do not want this chemical reaction going on in your body, especially in your brain. It almost goes on continuously, where the two metals, once they're introduced to each other and they have this chemical reaction forming, they morph and grow and morph and grow and morph and grow, and this chemical reaction is ongoing, kind of like when you make that volcano as a kid in the science experiment, and you add the baking soda and there's this big chemical reaction. So it's really important to realize that, it's not just one thing. We're being exposed to this multi-tiered, and it's not just the fluoride in the toothpaste, the fluoride in the drinking water. That's just one precursor problematic thing that then is mixed with the aluminum in your deodorant, aluminum in the, the flu shots and what have you, and then the agenda begins to play out, and you become sick. You have to learn how to take your health into your own hands by learning about these problems, and knowledge is power. There's nothing really it's not about like learning these scary things and resonating in fear. It's about taking the power into your own hands to live a healthy and happy life. And the Xbox video. So as an activist, I'm trying to find my way to bring this light to people, going on shows and making this film that I'm currently working on about frequency. It's called Altered. It will be just like Frankenskies, the past, present, and future, but this topic is now frequency. So you go all the way back to Nikola Tesla and Joseph Goebbels of the Nazi regime, and Royal Raymond Rife, and all these historical figures that taught us about frequency, and then bring it to modern day and our brains and our hearts and our Schumann resonance and circadian rhythm and all this, and then to the future, and where the control of frequency will be bringing us with this wave of 5G control and what have you. So as an activist, I'm trying to figure out little ways, I'll create a meme, or I'll make a video, or I'll do whatever I can to plug it onto social media, onto YouTube and Facebook. And then, of course, I'm facing censorship, just like all the other, quote, alternative media, aka truth speakers. And I'm facing censorship, so I have to roll with it and change and adapt. And I'm realizing that these short enough videos are a good way to bring some light to people, because the new Facebook algorithms, they prioritize videos, and people can take the video and plug it on Instagram and what have you. So I did this. So the story is I've gotten, and I highly, highly recommend this. If you want to learn about the frequency that we live in, okay, we're surrounded by Bluetooth technology. We're surrounded by our phones, our smart meters, on our utility meters, smart meters on our gas meters, on our homes. They're putting up this 5G infrastructure, which means cell towers potentially right in front of our small cells, they're calling them, potentially right out front of our homes. And it's really important that we learn about this invisible soup of toxic radiation that we're exposing ourselves to, and especially children. Okay, we didn't grow up in this toxic mess, and we have to realize that the next generation, these impacts are, well, the radiation is one, it's cumulative, and also it has to do with your proximity to the sources of radiation. And once we learn, what I did is I got it myself a meter. So I got this RF, which is radio frequency, EMF, electromagnetic fields, radiation meter. And I immediately just started to learn so much. I couldn't believe how little I knew about these devices that I had surrounded myself with. So, for instance,
How much are those? Just so we know.
well, there's various ones online, and I can't recommend it enough. Just go on Amazon, type in EMF meter, and you can spend anywhere from $50 to $400. I got one for around 120, and then I got one for around 500. I wanted to get the best one that I could find.
Right.
Both of them work, and really, it's just the importance of understanding the environment that you live in. Like, wow, that wireless baby monitor was actually giving off a lot of radiation, and now I know. And for instance, when I had a smartphone, I would put my phone on airplane mode at night. And that changed my sleep pattern. I was getting so much more rest and just that little step. But also, so I recommend getting a hard line and weaning off of wireless as much as you can. But if you do have wireless, so you've got your Wi-Fi router, for instance. Well, you're in the other room and you take your computer off of airplane mode or whatever, and you turn your computer on. You're connected to the Wi-Fi. Now all of a sudden, there's an invisible stream of information, like a cloud of information. The Wi-Fi that you've established, and in between your computer and the router, there is an invisible cloud of radiation. And it's invisible. It's not like natural gas where you can smell it. It's not like certain things that you can see and touch. It's invisible, and it has impacts. There's lots of studies, especially you can look on my crowdfund, gofundme.com/protectionclothing. I show studies of rats' brains or studies of where women have worn their smartphone in their bra, and they have tumors in their breast that are shaped just like their phone. There's a lot of studies out there that I can go over later on in the show, especially if you like. But there's so much information and studies out there that I just wanted to learn on my own, right? And to really see if this was real. So I took the meter into one of my friend's house, and lo and behold, the Xbox was putting off massive levels of radiation, so much that it peaked the meter. It was more radiation than my meter could detect. And it wasn't that the Xbox was even on. It was just plugged in. Okay, and so once the Xbox is plugged in, it starts firing out this invisible microwave radiation, looking for a server, looking for a router so it can get dialed in to play video games and what have you. But my friend, she was just using it for playing DVDs. And little did she know that living room was being constantly radiated. So I did a video. I took it out into a field and got rid of all the phones and got away from smart meters and what have you. And right when I plugged this Xbox in, the radiation read on the meter was extremely high, above limits that are set in certain countries like China. Our limits have been extended extremely high, our exposure limits by the FCC. But if you learn about the connections to the current FCC and the telecom industry, and it all starts to make sense. But that Xbox video, I put it up on Facebook, and then I put it up on YouTube. But on Facebook, it got 400,000 hits. A lot of people asking me to do the same experiment on PlayStations, and really it kind of brought to light a lot of these things are just opening these curiosities where people wouldn't ever really think about these things because it's invisible.
Right. Yeah, I was even surprised that, the amount of radiation that is coming off of the smart meters. And you're saying there are different smart meters on the house for electrical and for gas and for different, even water. Is that correct?
Yeah, depending on where you live, the utility companies are coming out and putting these smart meters on all of your utilities, on your water meter, on your gas, and on your power. And if you're in the know, most places you can opt out. The state of New Mexico, it was taken to courts, and the entire state banned smart meters.
Awesome.
Because they said that there was risk. They said that there was health risk. If you have a pacemaker, if you have a heart pacemaker in your implant, you can opt out very easily because these EMF fields put off by these devices, they can disrupt your pacemaker, But it's all about being in the know. I live in California, and it was easy for me to just call them up and have them come and replace the smart meter with the old analog meter. So for people that don't know, you have this analog meter, the old meter, and the meter maid would come once a month and come on your property and look and see how much power you used, and you get billed. Well, now these new smart meters are coming out, these digital meters, where what is supposed to happen is once a month, a truck or a van from the utility company will come driving down your street, and it'll ping these smart meters and ask them how much utility you've used that month. And so they don't have to get out of their car and come onto your property. That's essentially how these are supposed to work. And so once a month, your smart meter should emit this radio frequency radiation signal to the passerby truck, and it collects all the data, and now they know how much to charge you. Well, if you get the meter and you start to learn, evidently these I've come to learn that these smart meters, depending on where you lived, okay, I tested the one that I lived in Canada, and I've tested the one that lived in Arizona, and there's all these different models and what have you. But around every 7 seconds, these smart meters are firing off radio frequency radiation that can be received by a tower upwards to 30 miles away. Okay, so you've basically got a small cell tower on the side of your home. And I learned the hard way. I was sleeping a few feet away from one of these for a couple months, and I developed mild electrosensitivity where I couldn't even hold my smart meter in my hand. I felt this electrical charge in my hand. I ended up getting rid of my smart meter and getting rid of my smartphone, and then finally opting out of the smart meter and learning about it, kind of the hard way. But it's all part of my path, and I encourage people to learn about it, to find out if you have a smart meter, and then to get yourself your own radiation RF EMF meter to see what kind of levels you're surrounding yourself with, and to see what it's like to be right next to your Wi-Fi your Wi-Fi router, opposed to being in the other room, and how much radiation your phone's putting off, and stuff like that. I ended up reverting back to an old flip phone, kind of slider phone, just to minimize my exposure, considering how much more exposure we may be seeing in our upcoming lifetime.
Well, I'm gonna I'll make one more comment, then I'll get Laura because I'm sure she wants to jump in here as well. But I had seen, even several years back, when there was all the hype on the cell phones causing brain tumors in people, and how this university, they had the entire staff, many of them developed even malignant tumors in their brains, and one of their I guess the people that worked up there on the top level, they discovered that the university had put a cell tower on the very top of the school, and many of them, one person got sick and actually died from these brain tumors, and then when the rest of them got checked, a number of them had the same kind of symptomatic and the same kind of condition. And so these cell towers are very dangerous, and they cause a lot of problems. I've read in other studies as well, that churches are allowing them to put them in the crosses outside of their churches, that they are renting as space to the cell phone industry and the cell towers. They're allowing them to put this kind of technology in crosses, or in a lot of poor communities. They're renting out and allowing these kind of technologies to go up, and people have no idea as to the detriment to their health and the kind of things that this accumulated radiation is affecting their bodies, and how even the overuse of cell phones has now been confirmed as causing brain tumors and things of that nature. Can you comment on that?
Well, yeah, I can, and happily. And I have been noticing, I actually live right next to a church, and in the church steeple, there's the panels for the 4G LTE and massive amounts of RF radiation coming off of these things. What's the word? I don't want to say funny, but what is odd and coincidental I'm not getting the right word, but it'll come to me. The high levels of radiation coming off of these cell towers that are being put on top of these churches, it actually impacts your brain to the point that it becomes addictive. Okay, it causes dopamine release, dopamine precursor release, and even arousal. So these people that are going to church, they're actually becoming addicted to being exposed to these high levels of radiation, and so they're addicted to going to these churches and not even knowing why. The thing about these concealment projects, okay, so they're called concealment projects. So the FCC
30 seconds, just so you know, Matt. And then we'll be back from after break. Yeah.
So the FCC has put in these rules that that local municipalities, they can't take into consideration human health impacts when these towers are going up, but they can consider impacts to property values. So that's why they're hiding them. That's why they hide them in church steeples and what have you.
Okay. All right. Hey, I appreciate that. We'll be right back, everyone, for a second. Of course. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Talking about this along with some of the genetically modified foods and all of that, and the risk that we don't even understand with regard to all of that, it reminds me of the scripture where Christ said that, unless the days be shortened, there should be no flesh left. And certainly this is one of those things that we're not even taking into consideration with regard to its effect on the health and the genetics and the DNA of humanity. And so I'm really applaud you in your efforts, brother, to bring forth this issue to the mainstream and to force public consideration on it. Laurel, did you want to step in here with comment or question or anything?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always thrilled when we have Matt as a guest. So again, welcome to the show. I took a few notes of a few things that I wanted to mention that you guys were talking about. Matt was talking about the cell towers and the steeples, and Zen, you were mentioning that too. I've seen them around town. I'm in Kansas City, which covers both Kansas and Missouri in that area. And I've seen them on water towers. So just imagine the radiation going into the water that everyone's drinking. Another thing is leading up to the show is kind of interesting on the news one night, which I hardly ever watch the news anymore. But Kansas City was bragging about how they're going to be one of the first 8 cities to roll out 5G. And they're all just so excited about it. And my kids, I have informed kids, and they just kind of looked at me like, quicker to kill you with, my dearie, Right. And I wanted to ask Matt, these Q-tip looking towers, is that the 5G? Do you know what I'm talking about? They kind of look like a great big Q-tip.
I know what you're talking about, yes.
And
that's not 5G. It seems to be part of the 4G LTE infrastructure, but I will go out on kind of a limb here. Okay, so we'll back up for just a minute. So there's a lot. Okay, firstly, Zen, you mentioned before about cell phones and all that, and people just learning now that cell phones are bad and still coming into that school of thought. A lot of other countries, they already know. And even in the warning labels of the phones we buy, it says, do not hold this up to your head. So, I mean, if that's not right there, hidden in plain sight, I don't know what to say. So the towers that have the panels and they're on the water towers, okay, I am a conspiracy kind of guy, obviously, but it's like, what is conspiracy if it doesn't just bring forward truth most of the time? An open mind is a fertile ground for seed germination, and these seeds are these new truths that we're like discovering throughout our entire lives. So if you watch the movie They Live and you start to really get into this, okay, so So I mentioned earlier Joseph Goebbels, and he was the chief propaganda minister of the Nazi regime, and he went through all this effort to retune music, to make music based on a not on 432 hertz A, but on 440 hertz A, and just 8 hertz made the music less harmonious for us because we're beings of frequency as well, right? And if you learn about Emoto, Dr. Emoto, and you see these experiments on water and learn that water has memory, I would be willing to hypothesize that the water is actually being targeted with frequency manipulation, whether it be fear or whatever you can, I don't think it's just receiving cell tower signals and what have you. I think the water's being, it's being tweaked. I think the water's being influenced. Okay.
How about weaponized?
So then,
what's
that?
Exactly.
How about weaponized?
Yeah, weaponized, exactly. So these Q-tip looking towers, okay, I've seen, for instance, in my crowdfund even, I've got a video. So I've got these different videos I've got stacked in. And one of these Q-tip looking towers in McKinleyville, California, it's right in the middle of town and it's disguised as a street lamp, okay? And these things aren't high enough they're not high enough off the ground to propagate a signal very far, all right? So, and then there's not more of them to repeat the signal. So it doesn't seem like the infrastructure of like this 5G or even 4G. And whenever I see, long story short, those Q-tip looking things, I suspect, I have suspicions of those. I have suspicions that they're more frequency control. So there's a set of them so for instance, in Oregon, there is the town of Ashland, Oregon, and Medford, Oregon. And Ashland, Oregon is very high vibe, like people are very well off. And the neighboring town, Medford, Oregon, has one of the highest crime rates in the country, and everything shifts just as you go a couple miles to the next town over. And they have some of those towers right as you go into Medford, these Q-tip looking towers. And I've noticed these Q-tip looking towers in rundown areas like ghettos and what have you, and not in these higher vibration, areas. And I see the panel on the trees, and I see the panels in the cactuses, and I see the panels in the church steeples, and I see the panels on the obvious cell towers. And these Q-tip things don't have panels, and they're not everywhere. If it was technology that really worked with, in collaboration with the other infrastructure in the 4G or the 5G or whatever, you'd think that these Q-tips would be everywhere, but they're not. So I have my suspicions with them, and I did some readings, and there's really high levels of radiation coming off of them. But because they're alone, and because of where I've witnessed them, I think that it could be beyond cell tower kind of stuff. We're being experimented on. There's no doubt about that. You watch the film Frankenskies, and you learn that St. Louis was sprayed with radioactive cadmium via station wagons. They went through the street spraying radioactive cadmium on citizens just to experiment on them. So why wouldn't they be experimenting with frequency, So that's my answer to that. Sorry, it was a little bit lengthy.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think there's something most certainly, especially when you learn about, how water can be influenced by thought and hold intent, that certainly there's something very suspicious about them connecting the two. And I think you're right, Laurel. I think they are corrupting and weaponizing. And of course, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but powers, principalities, rulers of darkness, wickedness in high places. And so even if the human component doesn't understand what's really going on with all that, certainly Satan and the spiritual forces that are behind even the chemtrails and the spraying and all that, and that as a part of the agenda that we don't understand, that spiritual aspect of the agenda that most people don't understand, that certainly he knows what's going on, in my opinion. But Laurel, did you want to bring up some other things as well?
Well, yes, actually, I did want to make one more comment. When I first saw it, to me, it looked like a listening device. My neighborhood is actually in a really nice area, and they did perk one right outside my neighborhood. But the first thing I thought of is, are they going to be able to listen to us now, like our conversations in our homes? But another thing I wanted to just get Matt's feedback on. Recently, Amazon has pulled books for alternative detox protocols for autistic children. And this is like right around this time where so many friends are telling me, and these are friends that put truth out, like Yana is one of them. She's in Facebook jail right now. And there's all these glitches where people can't comment, people can't post. And these are people that are very active with getting truth out there right around the time that Amazon is pulling all these books. Have you seen anything about that?
I'm in Facebook jail currently, and I've never been in Facebook jail for 30 days. And I just got this 30-day Facebook jail because of a crisis actors post that I made about 2 years ago. Maybe a year and a half ago. So I don't know if it's the algorithm or what it is, but we could do an entire seminar on censorship. All right. And yeah, back to the Q-tip, surveillance for sure. I think surveillance is part of the 5G thing. If you learn about the 1 millimeter wave and the scanning, like the abilities, the 1 millimeter wave for 5G is the same exact thing used in the TSA body scanners. So they'll be able to scan everything everywhere and monitor the surveillance capabilities of 5G are staggering. So and I do believe 100% that it's biblical, that we are more and more as I resonate with the truth. I see this as much more in line with the story of this technology has it's got a satanic backbone to it, and it's wild. So the censorship, the beast is just slowly clamping down. This slow clamp down. For one, they don't want people to realize that it's happening. So much of the public won't even think anything's happening because it's so slow and methodical. All right. So it's not like everyone went to Facebook jail at once, but a lot of people did. And I can't do anything for 30 days. And I feel like when I come back, they'll probably do it to me again. They're slowly bleeding people out. I know, for instance, the Richie Allen show, he had a whole library of shows. I had 2 shows on there, and I went to go share those shows with someone, and the entire library of information had been completely deleted. It's this slow, methodical clamp down, right? Where at the end of it, in a couple years, Amazon will have taken all those books off the shelf, and the information. I've noticed even Google search is changing the exact same thing that I searched a year ago. I go to search it now, and the opposite is now true, right? You can literally, if you have the right perspective and you're seeing it through the lenses of these truth seeker, open-minded that we are, you can see, but not hardly. I think that the majority of the population, they don't even realize that it's going on, and it's just it's business as usual for them. As far as the clamp down on vaccines, it's just like everything. They do it with gun control, they do it with this spraying. It's this slow frog boil thing where we'll never realize that we just lost all of our rights if they do it slowly and calculated. Whatever happened. Do you remember in our lifetime when people would get all uptight and vocal about free speech? We've lost free speech, and people don't even mention it anymore.
Right. Free speech zones they have now. It's insane.
Also, that Globebusters has had all their videos removed by YouTube.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, I think that's going to happen more and more to people, and until really YouTube becomes a place of nothing but propaganda, and where it had been a place where individuals like ourselves could really share and express truth and investigations and um, knowledge that we learned in doing some really profound research on, whatever issue it was that we wanted to look into, that it was a bastion of truth and alternative viewpoint. And all of that has now been corrupted because of their connections to, corporate America and being bought out by whoever, Google or whatever, owns them at the highest levels. That now, even with the Google searches and things of that nature, it's all the propaganda, disinformation that comes up first and dominates the first few pages. And in order to get to any of the good stuff and things that are, used to be that if you had a lot of hits on your website that you would come up, but now they hide all that too, so that if they don't want you to show up in the searches, well, you won't show up in the searches, so all of that has been messed with. And certainly the revenue stream for individuals in using and doing in sharing and broadcasting alternative truth, that also has been dwindled and squandered and disappeared. And I think they're doing those kind of things in order to hurt and to harm the ability of individuals like ourselves to even be able to do this line of work and to have it kind of, pay for itself, so that we can focus in the manner that we are on these radical ideologies and bringing truth forth in a way that so few platforms are. And I know we certainly are messed with. Our numbers are skewed, and our subscribers are unlisted and unsubscribed all the time. Comments disappeared and not made available on all our different videos. And I'm sure, Matt, you've experienced a lot of this as well.
Well, I've seen so much. I mean, and you name it. Where people say that they've watched a video and the view count has actually gone down, or I've even seen something where different people have different experiences on the internet altogether. Where if the algorithm thinks that you're already awake, then they'll let you see these certain things. But if they think that you're on the cusp of awakening, so for instance, I believe that the truth is spreading like wildfire. If you meet people on the street or at the farmer's market, they're so much more tuned into the truth than what you're led to believe and what you're told to believe on social media. The powers that be do not want you to know, and do not want the general population to know how much the truth is spreading. And that's why they're trying to quell it and compartmentalizing it and create these little echo chambers where we're all together, but we're not spreading to new people. Okay, so that's one thing. But what I've realized, okay, which is amazing, all right, and this goes back to this good and evil kind of thing, all right. So we're up against this manipulation of truth, all right, and what we're told, and we are actually learning to either take truth as the authority or authority as the truth. But as the dark comes in and shows itself, we have to adjust, and we learn discernment. The discernment that I've learned over the past few years is priceless. It's priceless. I've learned to connect with my spirit and literally ask my heart, ask my soul, ask my gut, like, is this propaganda? Because you have to develop these new tools as we go into this new age of misdirection, misinformation, disinformation, propaganda on top of propaganda, right? But what it does, it actually refines our skills. And maybe a lot of people are fooled, but also those of us who are resonating with that high vibration of truth, I think that our tools are sharpened. And even if they're trying to, in the spiritual battle, quell this awakening and quell this elevation of consciousness, or, you know, whatever the game of Earth really is, which I believe it's an elevation of consciousness, is what the end result of our experience here is. Whatever that the source, the evil is trying to quell this awakening, no matter what they do, either they stand idle and this ascension, this evolution happens, or they try to block it, but still their trying of blocking it, their attempts are only going to show that who they are. And then we learn, well, if there's darkness out there, I'm not that, I'm actually the light. And then we evolve anyways. Or we learn through our sharpening of our tools, through our discernment capabilities, and how we learn the hard way through, like, basically rolling with the punches. And, you know, they censor us this way, well, then we get out on the street and we make eye contact with people, and we actually go back to community and go back to the way things used to be. I don't think that there's any way that the negative forces can actually win this battle, because either way we adapt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think and even with, you know, flat Earth, as far as the cosmology, that a lot of people are starting to be led to understand that the word is inspired, and that it's prophetic, and that you can go to it to find a lot of answer. And so it's good to see that even in yourself, there's some evolution of that since even the last couple times that we talked with you. And so, and I think that is also part of the process, you know, of what we are being forced through, and that as far as the darkness and all that surrounding us, that we are being refined like gold, as it speaks about even in the scriptures. Laurel, did you have something else that you wanted to bring forth as well?
Yeah, I'd really love for Matt to hit more on the smartphones. And so this is why it's not worth the cancer. I admit, though, just the thought of getting rid of my iPhone and not having banking right there, right? Banking, ordering Amazon. I don't really care about the Facebook app, but, you know, my Bible apps, my security cameras, these are the things that, I mean, they shouldn't be holding me back, right? So I'm thinking, if you talk more about just why that iPhone is going to kill me, it's going to be a much easier transition to go back to the flip phone.
One other thing too, Matt, in talking about that, can you distinguish between airplane mode and the other regular normal mode, and why that makes such a huge difference?
Yes, happily. And Laurel, so there's so many ways to go about, like, activism, you know, and with the chemtrails, I learned to stop pointing at the sky when there's actually chemtrails, and to flip it on its head and be a lot less fear-based and a lot more positive. And on these beautiful days with normal clouds, or these beautiful days with just blue skies, then I say to people, wow, there's no air traffic today. Interesting. Not a single plane in the sky, you know, and I bring the awareness to the irregular pattern of appearance of the planes, and not to the negative side, because you don't want to back people up against a wall, right? I am well aware that your smartphone is your friend. Okay. I had a smartphone. I love the camera. I love the GPS. I love it all. Okay. And I'm not trying to crap on your friend. I'm there with you. So let's just get that straight. All right. So I'm not that guy. But what I will do is I will bring some truths forward so that you can mitigate your potential health impacts and protect yourself and your children and your family from the potential harms. And look, I have a clothing line that's coming out, and the clothing line is called Spero, S-P-E-R-O, which is Latin for hope. And you'll be able to have your smartphone and wear this clothing. You know, I'll have maternity wear and underwear and cool sweatshirts and style, but the clothing will be lined with silver so that you won't be impacted by the radiation that your gadgets are putting off. Because look, not everyone can go backwards in time, and I realize that. So first and foremost, blue light filter. All right, this will change your life if you don't know about it. There's a lot of studies out there, so I'm not, reinventing the wheel or making any of this up. You can look up Harvard research studies on blue light, and there's a lot of neat studies out there, which this will take just a second, but it's amazing, and knowledge is power. So please take this with you. So the light spectrum that we see with our visible eyes, it on one end of the spectrum is red, and on the other side of the spectrum is blue. And on the side of the spectrum that's red, if you go just beyond red, is infrared, and you can't even see infrared. And then on the other side, where it's actually a higher vibration, which means a higher hertz, like more waves per second, is blue and then violet. And ultraviolet is right at the end of the spectrum. You can't see ultraviolet, but it's there, right? But we can't see it with our eyes. And so sunlight, for instance, it has ultraviolet in it, in that light spectrum. There's also ultraviolet, and it's actually harmful. That's why if you stare at the sun, or you get sunburn, all that sort of stuff, it's the ultraviolet rays, the UV rays. So right next to UV rays, similar properties to UV rays, is blue light. And blue light is in the light that we see, but we don't want a lot of it. And if we get a lot of it, it can impact our eyes. After staring at it from smart devices after like 30 years, it can cause macular degeneration. It can even cause blindness, and it can actually really impact children and their development of their eyes, and it can disrupt your circadian rhythm and cause even depression and stuff. And I'll explain why. Okay, so UV light off of sunlight, it has a certain hertz, which is how many times it goes by per second, and it has a size and everything. It has a properties. So your body and your ancestry and everything, it set its circadian rhythm, its clock, to this natural rhythm of the earth, which is this Schumann resonance, and it has to do with the sun going up and down. And when it's dark, you have different...
Hold on.
We'll get into this after commercial.
Yep. All right, we'll be right back for a second hour, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. I have as co-host with me this evening Laurel Austin, and as special guest Matt Landman. All right, Matt, I wanted to turn it back over to you and give you a chance to finish up your thought.
Thanks so much. So our smartphones and even our tablets and our computers, they emit a lot of blue light. And blue light, our bodies recognize it as sunlight because it's similar. It's because the UV and the blue are near each other on the color spectrum. So whenever we're around and we get this bright light in our face when we're looking at our devices, whenever we're around this bright light, our circadian rhythm, this rhythm of our biological clock, it's told that we're in bright sunlight, like it's high noon, essentially. And so then our biological clock gets reset, our circadian rhythm gets reset, and these chemicals that are supposed to be released at night, such as serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, these things that make us happy, they potentially don't even get released. Or we don't get good sleep, and it creates fatigue and what have you. So what you can do is get a blue light filter on your device. Okay, there's a website called f.lux.org. If you just search f.lux, you'll be able to find these apps. But I highly recommend people learning about blue light, and then you'll learn why LED lamps, LED street lamps, if you have an LED street lamp, these new ones are being put up everywhere. If you have one out front of your bedroom window, for instance, if that light is leaking into your bedroom while you sleep, the whole time you sleep, your body's being told that it's daytime, essentially. If it's leaking in just a little bit, then it's like sunrise, and you can't get this proper brain chemistry, and people end up actually getting depressed, and you can even get sick from these things. So I recommend blackout curtains in that instance. But just learning about blue light and mitigating your blue light exposure, especially at night, like the blue light filters, they have a clock on them, and they click on, the app will click on at night so that you're protected from that, and your circadian rhythm, your sleep schedule is not messed up. So that's just one thing. Also, you can flip your phone on airplane mode. So when you're in the airplane, they don't want all these different signals going off. So you have an option on all your smartphones. You just click it on airplane mode. That kills everything. When you have the meter and you're getting the readings off of the meter and seeing what kind of radiation's coming off your phone. You put it on airplane mode, nothing is detected. All right. You turn it back on, you'll get your voicemails, you'll get your text messages then. But while you're sleeping, highly recommend just flipping your phone on airplane mode, and then you're not getting all that radiation that can impact your sleep and what have you. It's cumulative. Okay. So less is more, right? Maybe have a time frame where you don't even use your phone, or have a day off or something like that, where you go into nature and you don't bring your phone with you. Also, Bluetooth, all right? This is invisible micro-sized wave radiation, all right? If you have Bluetooth headphones in and you've got a device that's emitting a signal to those Bluetooth headphones, that signal is going right to your skull. It's hitting your head. Okay, it's like sticking your head in a microwave. You don't want to be around Bluetooth technology. I'm sorry. And this is convenience, but it's also very harmful, especially for children who haven't developed their skulls yet, and their brains are more fluid than ours. The radiation that we were never exposed to, we need to learn as parents to not expose this stuff to our children. If you're putting a laptop or a smartphone or an iPad, these iPads I see in these strollers with these kids, if you're handing your kid an iPad, it should be on airplane mode. Otherwise, it's looking for a Wi-Fi signal. It's emitting a lot of radiation. You can learn about these things very, very easily. So airplane mode, blue light filters, and there's other things. I'm making the cell phone pouch lined with copper that helps with the radiation. But yeah, especially just getting into nature and realizing that you can get grounded by being away from all this, and you don't have to have the phone on you at all times. I just encourage people to take a step back and see how far and quick we've come. I was just having this conversation yesterday. We went from families crowding around a radio, listening to radio broadcasts, to black and white TV. And then since then, everything has just gone so fast. Color TV, computers, and now we're on the verge of people dating robots or becoming robots, or not even considering the existence of a soul and soul transfer and all this sort of things. We need to take a step back and realize that humanity is a very precious thing, and that we need to honor and protect our humanities.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And
brightness do the same thing as that F-Lux?
There's a couple different apps, and I'm pretty sure they all work. You can see it once you change the tone of the light coming off of your device. You can totally see that it's a more orange yellow light. And then while we're on the topic, please, if you have these curly bulbs, so when Barack Obama got elected, which I voted for him at the time, people were really excited to get Bush out of office, and people thought that Obama that he was just going to be the best president ever, and he had this energy policy. He had this energy policy to make America great again, and or whatever, and he really played on that word hope, and he was a great speaker, and he's got a great voice and everything. But I remember people came door to door with free light bulbs, installing these compact fluorescent, these twirly bulbs. You don't want these twirly bulbs in your home, okay? If you're listening and you've got those twirly bulbs in your home, please learn from me right now that these are harmful. If they break, they have mercury, which is toxic and can cause you can get heavy metal poisoning if the light bulb breaks. But while it's on, it's flickering tens of thousands of times per second, on and off, on and off, on and off. That's how it supposedly saves energy, by being off half the time. But it emits blue light for one, and it's the on-off pulse. Either way, these twirly bulbs, they're bad. If you're around them enough, you can tell. But it puts you in a trance. And the LED lamps as well. Learn about the lights that you're surrounding yourself with. And if you just go back to the what do they call it, incandescence, change your life. And especially get outside when the sun is out. There's an agenda to dim the skies. I want to back up. I'm sorry. I can't stop thinking about that quote you said about the days being shortened.
Yeah,
out of the Bible.
no flesh left unless the days be shortened.
Interesting, because you notice how it seems like the sunrise and sunset are sprayed heavily with chemtrails.
Yeah, it always seems to like right before it's going to rain here in near Atlanta, Georgia, near Athens, but always before the weather comes in. And I think that what I notice with regard to their spraying pattern is that they are using the storm formations and the rain to bring down the chemtrails and the poisons that they're spraying in the atmosphere. And I also believe that it has something to do with the way that, when the rain hits especially the hot concrete, it vaporizes, it aerosolizes, and so that people can breathe it in, and that a lot of people afterwards have sinus infections and breathing complications, and especially those that already have asthma and things of that nature. Then there seems to be a run up on like bronchial and pneumonia type progression and diseases for a lot of the populations.
My daughter got hives playing in the snow. Everywhere the snow had hit her skin, she broke out in hives.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
That's horrible. And then, sorry, back to the blue light. I mean, to the Bluetooth, excuse me. It's so much easier to just click the Bluetooth off and connect your speakers with a cord, and you don't have to deal with that radiation. I know it seems a little archaic to have a wire, but realize that technology is emitting, more non-ionizing radiation, and it's cumulative. So the less that you impact yourself with it throughout your life, the better.
So yeah, blue light, I have a personal question concerning this because, like, my digital clocks, they are a blue light. That's not really the same thing as what you're talking about, though, is it?
It's not the exact same, but still, I wouldn't want my room lit up with blue light while I'm sleeping. Altogether, I would want to just try to be in complete darkness. I noticed that my laptop, my MacBook Pro, it does this thing called sleeping, where it pulses this light. The light's like brighter and then dimmer and then brighter and dimmer, and it was disrupting. I don't know if it was purposeful. I think it was probably put on there purposeful to disrupt people's sleeping patterns. But definitely, I try to just sleep in complete darkness just to stay on that schedule. But no, it's not the exact same thing, and I'm still learning about this. But basically, the light coming off of our smart devices has all light has all the colors in it, right? But the light coming off the smart devices has a lot of blue light, but we can't even really see it because it's mixed with the other lights, if that makes sense. But once you start to mess with the app and you dim it to another color spectrum, then you can kind of see, oh, that was really like white bluish compared to this yellowy color.
So you're not going to believe this, but I've got like half a dozen salt lamps in my living room and dining room and my bedroom. Salt lamps everywhere. And I absolutely love the color of blue, and I really kind of don't like the color orange. I got blue holiday-like kind of bulbs, and all my salt lamps are shining blue right now. Because I love seeing the color blue. It makes me like really happy, but now I'm like really rethinking this.
I don't think that that's harmful. I'm a constant work in progress. Trust me. I'm like getting books at the library and trying to really wrap my head around all of this stuff. But I don't think that blue tinted light bulbs are going to be harmful like the screen. The screen is patented to these smart screens on these smartphones and tablets. They're patented to pulse at a rate that disrupts your neurological system. It's patented, So we're dealing with something completely. It seems like it's targeting us. I don't think that the blue tinted lights. I don't want you to get rid of those, honestly.
Good. Because I want to keep my blue salt lamps.
Yeah, no, that sounds cool, actually.
Yeah.
Well, definitely colors have influence on mood and just setting the ambient of a room. So I wonder, if it's like a cooling. Well, what does it make you feel as far as the blue? Why do you like it in particular?
Well, I thought it made me relaxed, but my children are kind of calling me crazy lady right now because I've been redoing all the flower arrangements to various blue flowers, and I've been just painting wrought iron things that I have in my house to blue because I really just we're about to paint my dining room blue. So I don't know if it's just a phase, but I hope not. But blue's always been my favorite color.
Well, let me ask you, how long have you been doing this? Because I have noticed a touch of insanity. No,
this
just
is
joking.
Very
just
recent.
joking.
Since I saw you in Denver, so.
Okay, then it is confirmed. No, just joking. All right, but Matt, brother, because I know we're going to quickly run out of time. With regard to the clothing company and as far as placing in the thread, how much is that? I mean, it's got to be, I would think, costly in some manner. And also, can you talk about how people can help you and give out the website for your fundraiser to get it going?
Thanks. Yeah, the clothing line adventure it's been an amazing journey. I've learned so much because this is all pretty new for the Western world. At first, I started reinventing the wheel. I didn't realize I was reinventing the wheel, but I found this copper-plated copper fabric, which was copper-plated nylon, like copper-coated nylon. And then I started learning about more woven materials using actual 100% threaded woven steel, and then also silver. So the 100% silver I ended up putting under a microscope, and it just looks like a bunch of wires. It's literally 100% woven threads of silver that's remarkably soft. And I've done experiments with the phone and the Wi-Fi router, to show that it actually eliminates the radiation, which is remarkable. And so I started first making like hooded sweatshirts lined with the copper material, and then I learned of the silver stuff, and then I'm learning of steel woven material and all these amazing epiphanies. And then just recently I started really digging around in Asia, and I kind of threw my hands up in the air and I just went to Southeast Asia to try to learn what I could just a couple months ago. And I learned that in China, it is common knowledge that that phones create harm and can give you tumors and create birth defects, and in the communist country, the knowledge is very prevalent that if you're pregnant, you should wear these aprons that are either steel or silver fabric that protect your fetus growing baby in your belly as a pregnant woman from radiation from Wi-Fi and your phone and tablets and smart meters and all that sort of stuff. So it's common knowledge, and there's a lot of companies over there like that do this maternity wear thing. So I thought it was kind of a new idea, but it's only a new idea on this side of the world. So that's been really interesting. So the fabric, for instance, the silver is there's like 80% and 100%, but primarily it's 100% woven thread silver material, and then it's loose, and you can line a jacket with it, or you can line a t-shirt with it, or make a t-shirt out of it, which I plan on having, like hooded sweatshirts and hooded t-shirts, so you can protect your head and your heart. I'll be having underwear as well as part of the company, and baby blankets and maternity wear, of course. And then the steel, which there is certain complications, like you can't wash the silver, with chlorinated, fluoridated water with traditional soaps, because silver's delicate. So there ends up being a little issue with that. So one solution is the steel material, which is 30% steel, and then cotton blend, or cotton bamboo, or cotton polyester steel blend. And it's either 30% or 20%. There's options of the steel blend, and it completely eliminates the radiation, the woven steel, and it's just steel threads that are woven together in a blend with the other materials, such as the cotton. And it's pretty loose fitting, surprisingly, and it's comfortable, surprisingly, and it's like you're wearing armor, like you're shielding yourself from this radiation that's just bounced off of this. So the 5G, especially, it's a weaponized military grade technology. It was created first to form these frequency fences in the Middle East. So this 1 millimeter size wave was pulsed off, propagated from this cell tower looking device on top of a Hummer, and anybody who comes in the range of this frequency fence, invisible fence, their skin burns. Okay, the 1 millimeter size wave, it burns the skin. Well, the telecom industry, for some reason, thought that they should. It's literally primitive technology, because the 1 millimeter size wave, even with a lot of power, it can only travel like 1,000 feet. So why would you? So to put this into perspective, okay, and this is all really important because, again, it's invisible, but we live in this toxic mess. These radio frequency waves, radio frequency is what our cell phones operated on and what this 5G will operate on. And radio frequency waves can be as small as 1 millimeter in height and as large as 1,000 feet in height. AM waves, AM radio waves, are 1,000 feet, roughly 1,000 feet tall. And they can travel great distances because of their size. And they go through us, and they don't impact us because they're way bigger than we are. And it doesn't interfere with our, we have our heart, our kidneys, our brains, all these things emit frequency, and we have this harmonized rhythm, this harmonized frequency that we put off. Our rhythm, our circadian rhythm, we have an entire biological clock, and it's not influenced by AM, FM waves, or even current cell phone technology as much as it will be by this 5G. So FM waves are 10 feet. So AM waves are 1,000 feet. FM waves are 10 feet in size. Okay, and all of these waves, radio frequency waves, they are essentially they fall into the category of light waves because of how fast they are. So light waves travel at 186,000 miles per second. All right, and these radio frequency waves are essentially that fast. So AM waves are 1,000 feet, FM waves are 10 feet, and these 5G waves will be 1 millimeter in height, which a penny is 1.5 millimeters. So skinnier than a penny, and we need an infrastructure of cell towers and even phones repeating the signal, and this Internet of Things, all these devices everywhere repeating the signal and firing out these invisible laser waves essentially everywhere. The infrastructure required to propagate this 1 millimeter wave is just it's so costly and so intrusive that it shouldn't even be considered. But with the properties of the steel and the silver and even the copper, it will deflect these little invisible laser waves. So I'd like to have hats lined with it, accessories, all this sort of stuff. And what I want to do is I want to bring the concept to the Western world, and I want it to proliferate. I'd be happy if other companies came in and took all my business and brought this to to the world with style and affordability, because I will be able to get it pretty cheap. I mean, compared to what exists out there, it's not going to be ridiculously priced. Like the men's boxer shorts that are pretty nice. They're nice looking, and they're lined with the silver. So it's antimicrobial, antifungal, and it deflects radiation and protects, the men below the belt area. Those I will be selling those for roughly $24 or $25. So it's kind of expensive, but also these are functional, and it'll be style and cool and stuff. But it's not going to, completely be ridiculous. Like, it's not what you would think. I'd like to have jackets and stuff for under $100, and I'd like to have T-shirts for around $50, and I'm still pricing it all out. I'd like to have baby blankets for around $50, using organic cotton and in line with silver, and like I said, I just want this concept to come to the consciousness so people can talk. Oh, why are you protecting yourself? Oh,
right.
From what? Oh, from this invisible toxic soup that you're in. Guess what? Maybe this isn't why you're sleeping or
right.
what have you. Because ultimately, at the end of all of this, I see this radiation environment that we're living in. I see the bigger picture as a depopulation agenda. I see it as preventing the next generation from having kids. I think that children conceived, born, and raised in a 5G environment will not be able to procreate. And then we get into this weird dystopian reality where this transhumanism agenda is pushed upon us, because if we can't procreate, then we should live forever and forget the existence of a soul. And, we're going to see all of this in our lifetime. So what I want to do is protect pregnant women, protect children, and protect those children as they grow up so that they can actually have children, and we don't have to face this weird reality of becoming machines, because that's not the timeline or the world that I want to co-create with my fellow human beings.
Right on. I think there's also, like the copper fit clothing, that there seems to be some therapeutic benefit to the metals lining the clothing anyways. And so that would be an aspect that I think people would look for also in purchasing this kind of clothing. But so we're 30 seconds out, and so when we return from break, we'll talk a little bit more about this, and you can give out your website for people to participate in funding you all this.
Thanks so much.
We'll be right back, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. Let me give you a chance, Matt, to give out your link where people can go to help you start up this clothing line. And then if you would, can you comment if you know about the benefits of having, copper or silver or things of that nature close to your skin for arthritis or other therapeutic benefits?
I've learned a lot about that recently. The copper is actually used in medical as compression for sprains and fractures to help healing. It makes the healing process expedited, speeds up healing and reduces inflammation. And then the silver is antifungal, antimicrobial, and I think just we could talk about getting mineralized later on in the show, but it's really important to be in touch with these elementals that we're no longer tuned into. In our ancestry, our ancestors, they had soil that was rich in all these minerals that now we don't get any of. So I encourage people to get mineralized and take your health into your own hands so that you're not mineral deficient and absorbing toxins from the environment. I'm just now learning about Shilajit, SHILAJIT, I believe. It's a mineral pitch. It's this goo that's full of minerals that you supplement that gets you up to speed on your minerals, because the soil used to, and the food used to have all these noble elements in it, including silver and copper and all of these things. So for the clothing line, which, like I said, my intention is to bring this concept to the consciousness. So please, if you can just even share the information, share the idea, talk about it with someone at the farmer's market, like, let's bring this idea to North America so that, like I said, the next generation can be protected, and we can honor the truth with integrity, and also protect ourselves with this powerful knowledge. So the crowdfund, which has my videos and a lot of important information, the crowdfund is gofundme.com/protectionclothing, because the clothing is protective. The website, which is not up yet, will be Sparrow, which is the brand, which is Latin for hope, SPERO, sparrowprotectionclothing.com. So the concept of protection clothing, I really hope we can bring that to the world, and that big companies like Abercrombie and what have you, or even maternity, companies that already exist that have those channels to all these people that are not necessarily aware, that they can adopt some of these this truth-based information and bring it to the world, so that people can protect themselves and mitigate their impacts to this technology. Because 5G, putting these cell towers in people's neighborhoods, it's impactful. It will be impactful. This technology, it for instance, it bifurcates cells, it divides cells, it causes cellular division, which leads to problems like cancer and tumors. So please check out the GoFundMe page and share it if you can. I'm getting heavily censored. Like, I can't even post on social media for 30 days now. So please, gofundme.com/protectionclothing. And then also, if you haven't seen my film, Frankenskies, a lot of people, they don't watch the film because they already know about chemtrails. And so they say, well, I already know about that. But once you see the film Frankenskies, you will learn something, and it's important to keep on learning, no matter who you are, where you are, how old you are. And then once you see the film and you see how informative it is, you can even be empowered and inspired to share it with others, especially those who are maybe on the fence or not necessarily on that same truth vibe quite yet. I've got flyers that I pass out, that I send out to people. I send out DVDs. Even if you want to host a screening, just contact me and I can send you a free DVD or some flyers for free even. Frankenskies@gmail.com is my contact. And you wouldn't believe how empowering it is just to have a flyer in your hands, to have an excuse to go talk to normal, nice people out there in the world at things like farmers markets or events where local, community-oriented, like-minded people are gathering. So FrankenskiesTheMovie.com. Please check out Frankenskies the Movie. You can watch it also on YouTube, also on Vimeo. I've seen people search the word Frankenskies on their phone, and all these different links come up to all these different radio shows and the movie posters. I've also seen people search the word Frankenskies on their phone and nothing comes up. So realize that your voice is your weapon, and we need to honor the truth, especially while we can, because who knows what this day of disinformation, where we're leading in this dystopian future. Also, actualactivists.com. Right now, it's a hub for truth, health information, vaccine information, chemtrails, all these different topics. But eventually, I plan on turning it into a social media hub where we can come together and not have censorship. And I'll actually have sponsorship opportunities to connect people that want to become actual activists, and people who are able to fund them even for a billboard or a stack of flyers. So please look out for that, actualactivists.com, FrankenskiesTheMovie.com, the GoFundMe page, and my Facebook, Matt Landman, my YouTube channel, Matt Landman. Please go like my YouTube channel. I can't stress enough the level of the censorship, but I'll keep putting up videos. I'll keep making videos, even if they're seen by one person, and I can plant that one seed. That's good enough for me, because I'm just trying to play my part the best that I can, and I'm always adapting and always rolling with it. So if there's a time when the internet doesn't become valuable for us truth seekers, then so be it. I'll keep rolling. I'll always be an activist. So yes, thanks for your support, everyone out there. And if you just want to send me an email and connect, frankenskies@gmail.com, I'm totally cool with just, responding sigh or facepalm or OMG to your chemtrail photos if you want to share. So I'm here for you.
Yeah, for those that have not seen Frankenskies or looked into the whole, what we're dealing with as far as chemtrails or aerosol, stratospheric aerosol injections, Matt does a fantastic job of not only bringing you up to date, but man, I was really blown away by how far back the information that you were able to find and all of the footage and the information that the government has released with regard to this program. And yeah, this is a topic that everybody in this day and age needs to know about. Everybody is witness to it, though most people don't understand it or understand the sinister nature of it, and that something is going on behind the scenes that is out of the control and the grasp of government, even though, governments all over the world support in some manner through black ops or covert budgets the schemes that are taking place in our skies, because it's everywhere. This program of spraying and these chemicals and the aluminum and the barium and the other heavy metals into the skies, and the sickness and the disease that is being caused by them is affecting us all on, an earth plane level. And so everybody needs to wake up, because it's undeniable. I mean, yeah, they witness it every day, but so many people deny, and yet it's all in your face, and then they don't want to admit to that there could be anything sinister to this agenda. But I think you bring a fascinating new light and new perspective, and utilizing government and broadcast and media in their own words to convict them of now, they are saying that they're trying to do this in order to prevent global warming. But of course, we know that all to be an excuse to perpetuate and to propagate and to give cover to the whole program now that it's, in the public conscience. And so, can you speak about that? And then I'll get Laurel to come forth with comment.
Very well put. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that full understanding of this reality, of this truth, needs to be appreciated by everyone on Earth. For one, the climate being engineered, the climate is engineered. All right, the weather is controlled, and once you wrap your head around that, the global warming hoax and the climate change hoax, it all starts to dissolve, and you realize that we're trapped in this problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic for what? To give away our sunlight, to give away the natural cycle of the hydrological system. I think that I think it's also really important for people to realize, once you watch the movie, you know that the weather is controlled. But to wrap your head around the fact that we can control the weather, that we can make it rain, that we can engineer and do engineer wind storms on top of forest fires, whereas we could be actually making it rain on top of forest fires. And then also, once you learn that the spraying of aluminum oxide on our forests for decades, aluminum oxide is actually a fire accelerant.
Right.
So those forests are being sprayed with a fire accelerant, and then forest fires are being exacerbated with windstorms. And then the fires are not just being put out with technology that's existed from the 20s. So you start to see the agenda at play right before your eyes, and these truths need to be shared with the world. So once you have that truth, you have to bring that torch forward, because like otherwise the light could be, this, you're being given this candle light, and it's up to you whether you value it and bring it forward to the next generation, or you potentially let it go out. Not a guilt trip or anything, but I think it's really important for people to know the reality, especially as we enter this weird corralling of humanity where forest fires with abnormal properties and firestorms that double in size overnight, going northeast, southwest. I mean, they go in every direction overnight, doubling in size night after night after night. That this is abnormal. Fire tornadoes are abnormal, right. and we need to realize that the weather is manipulated and could be controlled to actually be beneficial to us.
Right. Yeah. Let me comment one other thing with the aerosol injection. Absolutely, that it is weather modification and weather manipulation, and that one of the things that they have been utilizing it for is to cause drought. And I think that what we see in California is, that whole thing being done over a decade now, and then, as you said, with the aluminum oxide being sprayed over, and that it is a fire accelerant. There is an agenda behind all of that and what's playing out there in Paradise, California. But that's a whole nother show. And Laurel, so let me bring it back to you. And did you have comment or question that you'd like to pose to Matt before we get to the end of the broadcast?
Just along the lines of us protecting ourselves and our families. When we talk about the smart meters, I got one of those smart meter covers for the outside of the house. But Matt, do I need to do something on the inside of the house where that smart meter is, or is just that cover on the outside enough?
It really depends on the model. Like I said, I can't stress it enough. I think everyone should. If we are going to live in an environment where we are surrounded by tablets and Wi-Fi and smart this and smart that, which smart essentially means wireless. The technology of wireless is these radio frequency EMF fields that produce radiation. We should all have a meter. I recommend grabbing a meter, and if it's coming into your home at high levels, especially if there's a bedroom on the other side of the wall, you can get paint. You can get just some sort of nickel or copper material that you can put on the other side of the wall there that will deflect. But I there's no way to know until you get a reader and do some readings. But those smart meter covers, yeah, those exist and those are cool and they work really well. It's a stainless steel mesh, and they should come standard when they come and put these smart meters on your home, because it doesn't interfere with their signal. Like, no one's come to your house and said, hey, we don't know what your power bill is, have they? No, they know. So why don't they take that into consideration when they're putting something emitting radiation on the side of your home? But also consider calling your power company and asking them about opt-outs. Different people will tell you different things, but a lot of places there's rules in place where you don't even have to pay extra to opt out and have that old analog non-digital meter put back on your home. It just depends on where you live. Some places will charge a little extra, what have you, but I think it's especially important if there's a bedroom on the other side of that wall, let me tell you.
For us, it's a dining room, but I was with a bookcase actually blocking. But since we are going to tear all that down to paint the blue, I was going to put aluminum foil right there where that smart meter would be. Would that be a very good shield?
The aluminum, it doesn't really work very well. If you want to do something temporarily, then go for it. But there's paint that's specific, or there's mesh and stuff like that. It's essentially nickel, copper, steel, or silver that works. So you've got paint that's got like, those materials in it that you can get a small thing of the paint if you just look up EMF paint on Amazon and stuff like that. Or you can get like a little curtain or some sort of fabric to just hang on the wall right there on the other side of it. That'll reduce your exposure significantly.
I think I'm just going to try to get them to replace it because seriously, they can get
analog. Yeah, go analog if possible. And I think if you make enough of a stink about it, that they'll do it.
Yeah, just tell them you have a pacemaker. They can't ask for medical records or anything like that. And if you have a pacemaker, the fields put off by that device in particular, it can impact pacemakers. So they don't want to have a problem with someone who's got their heart depending on a proper EMF field.
Okay. Thanks for the tips. I appreciate it.
Or your father or grandfather, your visiting dad or whatever.
Yeah, I was saying my visiting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't have to really.
Yeah.
Cool. So we talked about the forest fires and we talked a little bit about global warming, but I just want people to really, really try to hone in on cultivating their power of discernment. You can start every single day just by asking your gut certain questions and what have you, but really it's communicating, with your higher self, right? And as we enter this empire of lies and disinformation, misinformation, propaganda stacked on top of propaganda, we're really going to have to just be able to hone in and ask it's kind of like when you meet someone and you're like, that person gave me a good or bad feeling,
Mm-hmm.
Harmonize and go deep with that, because we're going to have to ask ourselves that with information nowadays. Some of it's really obvious. I know we're running short on time, but I came across a study by Coca-Cola that said Coca-Cola is more hydrating than water, and the study funded by Coca-Cola, it had these people, and they drank water side by side with Coca-Cola, and then they studied how much they urinated, and they would urinate more water than Coca-Cola. So the study proclaimed that because they were retaining more Coca-Cola, that it was more hydrating. So now Coca-Cola is more hydrating than water, right? You see this with vaccine studies and GMO and all this stuff.
Right.
You have to trust your instinct and really just kind of resonate on that truth, because we're going to be fed so many lies, especially as the world as we keep on going, as we keep on going into this new age of technology and censorship and what have you.
So how is your progression, and when do you foresee releasing Altered?
Oh, well, I was hoping to have it out this summer, but then I took a pause and started really focusing on the clothing line. I think a bit of the clothing line creation will be discussed in the film. But as 5G rolls out and the expected nationwide deployment is around 2020, I'd like to have the film out in 2020 as well.
Excellent. All right, brother. Well, we look forward to it, and certainly we'll be helping you on your journey. And do let us know. We'll bring you back on to talk about, your efforts and the progression of it. And we appreciate all you do, and certainly, if you would give out your website contact information one more time, and then a final commentary for the listening audience.
Thanks. And for one last note, I really want to encourage people to be themselves and to not worry about the pressures of your peers and your coworkers and even your family members. If you really feel strongly that you don't want to vaccinate your kid or whatever it may be, honor that truth, and even speak your truth. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. There's been waves made in Northern California from people standing up to their city and town talking about the risks of 5G and uncovering research. And now zoning regulations are being put in place because those people spoke up. I've seen when people speak up amongst their peers that these seeds are planted, and then in the near future, people are waking up to weather modification, GMOs, and living a healthier, happier life. Even just telling your friends that you read ingredients on food and you try to be healthy, and that there's a neurotoxin fluoride in your municipality's drinking water, and how you mitigate those risks and those exposures and all this stuff. It's all about living your truth to lead by example. That's activism. The actual activist. Are you an actual activist? It's by leading and living your truth. And you never realize, you never know the germination of the seeds that you're planting. You could be inspiring the next revolutionary, the next, who knows, or you could be that next just by living your truth. So really encourage people to honor that and to not worry about what you think the society around you may think. Because honestly, the more I speak my truth, the more these people come to me. Like, I meet people at farmers markets that if I had never opened my mouth, I never would have known these amazing awakenings that are happening all around me, these amazing connections in my community and friends and, new family members. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So resonate on that high vibration of truth, and everything will work itself out when you trust. So also, please visit my website. Just take a gander. Frankenskiesthemovie.com, actualactivists.com, plural, actualactivists.com. And then my Facebook, which I'm usually posting a whole lot, censorship or not, but now I'm in Facebook jail for 30 days. Matt Landman, please give me a follow. Also, Matt Landman on YouTube, and check out some of these awesome short videos I've been putting up on YouTube. A lot of awesome information on there. And again, thanks for having. I think this is our third time, and I really appreciate what you all, the truth that you all bring, and the calm, collected, grounded version of truth, because it's all about coming to people on their level, right? Running around like a chicken with its head cut off is it's not doing anybody any good. So thanks for your wisdom, and thanks for being there to witness my progression as well. I really appreciate you all.
Yeah, likewise, brother. We appreciate you as well. Yeah, Laura, let me give you last chance for comment as well. We've got just a minute remaining.
Just wanted to thank Matt, because when he stands up and he says this is wrong, or when he stands up and speaks truth, he helps others around him to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everybody that to acknowledge, and as Matt said, honor that in yourself, and know that you can be the change, and that you could be the person that makes just miracle happenings. And so don't limit yourself in any way. Don't let anybody's expectations keep you down, but believe in yourself, dream big, and make it happen. Go forth with your persistent effort, work towards goals, create, a vision for what you want to see happen, what you want to make yourself, and do it and get it done. And we'll all be here rooting you on.
Beautiful.
All right, brothers and sisters, I appreciate you. And Matt, we'll be talking soon, brother. Let us know, about when you get things set up, and we'll do a follow-up. God bless all. Good night.
Guys, care.
Shalom.